Sup, you beautiful bastards? Hope you're having a fantastic Monday. Welcome back to the Philip DeFranco Show, and let's just jump into it. And the first thing I want to talk about today is we have even more sexual harassment stories in the news. Some old, some new. And one of the biggest stories is that 38 women have accused director James Toback of sexual harassment. Now, for those that don't know, James Toback is a 72-year-old screenwriter, director. He directed The Pickup Artist, Two Girls and a Guy, Tyson. And according to 38 women in separate interviews, the story goes something like this. Toback would approach a young woman, he would introduce himself, he'd name drop until the girl knew that he was a big deal. Then he would say that he wanted to make them a star, telling them that it would only work if he got to know them and they had to trust him. Then they'd have a private meeting or an interview, and that would quickly turn sexual. The claim saying he would discuss sexual conquest and ask intimate questions, and then he would dry hump or masturbate in front of the person until completion. And then the meeting was over. Adrienne LaValle saying Toback attempted to hump her leg in a hotel room, adding that when she recoiled, he stood up and ejaculated into his pants. LaValle saying, I felt like a prostitute and utter disappointment to myself, my parents, my friends, and I deserve not to tell anyone. Karen Sclair said it was such a known, disgusting secret, quote, it's a common thread among women I know. After someone mentions they were sexually abused by a creepy writer-director, the response is, oh no, you got Toback. Echo Dannon said that she was in Toback's trailer on the set of Black and White when he got down on his knees, put his hands on her thighs, and said, quote, if you look into my eyes and pinch my nipples, I'm going to come in my pants right now. Adding she resisted and eventually he stepped down, but said everyone wants to work, so they put up with it. That's why I put up with it, because I was hoping to get another job. Terry Khan said that Toback asked her to meet him in Central Park. When she got there, she says he took her to a secluded area of the park, got down on his knees, and humped her leg while telling her to look into his eyes. She said, quote, I was shocked and frozen and didn't know what to do. I thought if I resisted, it could get worse. He could overpower me. He then reportedly ejaculated into his khakis, they parted ways, and she ignored all his subsequent attempts to meet up. And we could go on and on. Like I said, there are 38 accusers. Now, some things to note. Some of the women's reports were corroborated with people that they told at the time of the incident, but none of the women filed police reports. Also, when asked about this, Toback claimed to have never met any of these accusers, or if he did, he had no recollection. He also repeatedly claimed that for the last 22 years, it has been biologically impossible for these incidents to have taken place, claiming that he has diabetes and a heart condition that require medication. And in response to this story coming out, one of the biggest names to speak out on this was James Gunn. James Gunn, of course, director of Guardians of the Galaxy, he went to Facebook and wrote, he has done this to 3 girls I've dated, 2 of my very best friends, and a family member twice. Yes, he came up to her twice with the same stupid lie, not realizing she was the same person. This in addition to many other women I've talked to at parties or dinners about their interactions with Toback. It is important to say I don't have any first-hand information about any of this, but the stories are so eerily similar, and I have heard them again and again from some of the people I trust most in the world. I know the chances of them being untrue, well, it would just be impossible. I knew it was their choice whether or not they wanted to come forward publicly, but I let them know I would have their backs if they did. So I did what I could do in my impotent state for over 20 years now. I've been bringing up James Toback every chance I could in groups of people. I couldn't stop him, but I could warn people about him. And in response to this post, there were a lot of people that were cheering James Gunn on for being so public, but there were also people who criticized him for not speaking out till now. And I'd love to know your thoughts on these open secrets that people are just now speaking out on. Are you happy that they're happening? You're disappointed that they didn't happen sooner? I mean, do you think it's better late than never? Do you think it takes away some of the good of the people speaking out? I'd love to know your thoughts there. Also, around sexual harassment, we saw Bill O'Reilly's name back in the news. The New York Times put out an article over the weekend that read, Bill O'Reilly settled new harassment claim, then Fox renewed his contract. In January, the Fox News host was said to have agreed to a $32 million settlement with a former network analyst, the largest of his known payouts. The timeline they give is January, 6 months after Roger Ailes was given the boot. And on this alleged $32 million payment, they write, although the deal has not been previously made public, the network's parent company, 21st Century Fox, acknowledges that it was aware of the woman's complaints about Mr. O'Reilly. They included allegations of repeated harassment, a non-consensual sexual relationship, and the sending of gay pornography and other sexually explicit material to her. And they wrote it was at least the 6th agreement, and by far the largest, made by either Mr. O'Reilly or the company to settle harassment allegations against him. Despite that record, 21st Century Fox began contract negotiations with Mr. O'Reilly, and in February granted him a 4-year extension that paid $25 million a year. Now, in response to this, a statement from Mark Fabiani was released on Bill O'Reilly's website. There, he writes, once again, the New York Times has maliciously smeared Bill O'Reilly, this time even failing to print a sworn affidavit from his former lawyer, Lise Wheel, repudiating all allegations against Bill O'Reilly. The Times ignored that evidence sworn under oath and chose to rely on unsubstantiated allegations, anonymous sources, and incomplete leaked or stolen documents. Adding, here are the facts. After the chairman of Fox News, Roger Ailes, was fired in July 2016, dozens of women accused scores of male employees of Fox News of harassment, including the current co-president of Fox News, Jack Abernathy. 21st Century century, Fox settled almost all these cases, paying out close to $100 million. 6 months after Mr. Ailes left the company, Fox News Corporation signed Bill O'Reilly to a record-breaking new contract after the company had analyzed and considered all allegations against him. In its first article about Mr. O'Reilly on April 1st, the New York Times printed inaccurate settlement figures while fully understanding that O'Reilly and his counsel are legally bound by confidentiality and cannot set the record straight. In its latest diatribe against Bill O'Reilly, the Times printed leaked information provided by anonymous sources that is out of context, false, defamatory, and obviously designed to embarrass Bill O'Reilly and keep him from competing in the marketplace. Finally, in the more than 20 years Bill O'Reilly worked at Fox News, not one complaint was filed against him with the Human Resources Department or legal department by a coworker, even on the anonymous hotline. The New York Times has copies of 2 letters written by 21st Century Fox lawyers attesting to that fact. The Times failed to print them too. Then linking to that affidavit. What I will say is I don't know what this affidavit proves. We know that Lease reached a settlement, so it wouldn't be shocking to see that there's an affidavit that says, at the end of 2016, I hired counsel who prepared a draft complaint asserting claims against Bill O'Reilly. We have since resolved all of our issues. I would no longer make the allegations contained in the draft complaint. Additionally, over the years, while I was acting as Bill O'Reilly's counsel, he forwarded to me explicit emails that were sent to him, and any advice sought or rendered is attorney-client privileged, confidential, and private. I have no claims against Bill O'Reilly concerning any of those emails or any of the allegations in the draft complaint. Also, I have reached accommodation with Fox News regarding the termination of my employment. I have no claims against Fox News. So it doesn't seem crazy that there would be a settlement and then someone saying, I have no claim against you. But then in response to one of the final claims, Megyn Kelly spoke out. Megyn Kelly, of course, a former Fox News host. She's now over at NBC News. And here's what she had to say.
O'Reilly calls the Times reports a malicious smear, claiming that no woman in 20 years ever complained to Human Resources or legal about him. Maybe that is true. Fox News was not exactly a friendly environment for harassment victims who wanted to report, in my experience. However, O'Reilly's suggestion that no one ever complained about his behavior is false. I know because I complained. It was November of 2016, the day my memoir was released. In it, I included a chapter on Ailes and the sexual harassment scandal at Fox News, something the Murdochs knew I was doing and, to their credit, approved. O'Reilly happened to be on CBS News that morning. They asked him about my book and about Ailes, who by this time had been forced out in disgrace. O'Reilly's response?
I'm not that interested in this.
No?
No, I mean, it's
sexual harassment? You're not interested in sexual harassment?
I'm not interested in basically litigating something that is finished that makes my network look bad, okay? I'm not interested in making my network look bad at all. That doesn't interest me one bit.
I did something that day I've never done before. I wrote an email to the co-presidents of Fox News, Bill Shine and Jack Abernathy. An email I have never made public, but am sharing now because I think it speaks volumes about powerful men and the roadblocks one can face in taking them on.
She then goes on to share and read parts of those emails. And in response to this, when talking to Glenn Beck, Bill O'Reilly said she didn't file a complaint that I know of, and she is not mentioning that there was an anonymous hotline at Fox News for years. Anyone could have called and said, someone is doing something to me and you'd better stop it. Adding, also, I'd like everyone to read the personal notes Megyn Kelly wrote to me. And he also put 2 of her notes on his site. One reading, Dear Bill, what a class act you are coming to my baby shower. I was truly touched. I know how busy you are, especially that time of day. It meant a lot to me and Doug. And thank you for the darling bodysuits and snuggly. You become a dear friend no matter what you say, and I am grateful to have you in my life, Megyn and Doug. Bill, thanks for the plug on Doug's book. I realize you didn't have to do that, especially after mentioning it already. I appreciate how supportive you've been of me over the years here at FNC. You're a true friend and mentor. XOXO Megyn. And personally, I will say that is such a weak counterpoint. You're sharing thank you cards from situations where it would most likely be seen as rude if you didn't send a thank you card. I've sent Sherry's berries to a few people I think are scumbags. But hey, that is where we are today. It will be very interesting to see how this story moves forward. Personally, I feel that the language Bill O'Reilly is using, specifically take me out of the marketplace, to me that sounds like someone may be prepping for litigation. So it really wouldn't shock me if this story gets bigger and bigger and bigger. But from that, I want to share some stuff I love today, and today in Awesome, brought to you by DeFrancoElite.com. DeFrancoElite.com, of course, one of the best ways you can support the show, help fund what we're doing now, what we're building to next. You get access to an exclusive Discord, discount codes that are usually around 20%, access to some videos early, access to exclusive live streams. In fact, today we're doing one that I'm not super pumped about, and that is the, we're gonna live stream myself and a few others eating ghost peppers. We'll be doing it a little after this video goes up, so if you want to see it live or watch it before everyone else can, DeFranco Elite. We also have exclusive posters, but the main point here is if you want to check it out, want to find out more, DeFrancoElite.com. And the first bit of awesome is we got the final trailer for Thor Ragnarok. We got a brand new awesome Super Mario Odyssey trailer that I will not be showing in this video due to concerns about copyright claims on Then we had YouTube OG Niga Higa putting out a trailer for Battlegrounds, the movie. Then we got a brand new video from Kurtz Kasak. Side note, congratulations on the 5 million. They put out a video called Why Age Should We End Aging Forever. Then in awesome that's definitely not taken without a daughter on a train, we get a trailer for Commuter, starring Liam Neeson as a man who initially has a soft tone.
I'm sorry, have we met?
To a man that eventually has bass in his voice.
You stop this train now.
While I'm making fun of this movie, I'm still probably gonna watch it. It's Liam Neeson. I know what I'm signing up for. And if you want to see the full versions of everything I just shared, the secret link of the day, anything at all, links as always are in the description down below. And then let's talk about a big update around Sergeant LaDavid Johnson and Donald Trump. And for those that missed the story last week, Sergeant LaDavid Johnson is one of 4 soldiers that was killed in Niger. We're gonna talk about that event more in a moment, but the big controversy last week was around a phone call between President Trump and the widow of LaDavid Johnson. Last week, Congresswoman Federica Wilson told the media that in his phone call with Maisha Johnson, President Trump said that her husband, quote, knew what he was signing up for, but it still hurts. We also covered how in some interviews and other reports, but it still hurts was not included. But President Trump repeatedly denied Wilson's claims. First, tweeting, Democrat Congresswoman totally fabricated what I said to the wife of a soldier who died in action, and I have proof, sad. Then later telling the press,
didn't say what that Congresswoman said, didn't say it at all. She knows it, and she now is not saying it. I did not say what she said. I had a very nice conversation with the woman, with the wife, who sounded like a lovely woman.
Then later tweeting, the fake news is going crazy with wacky Congresswoman Wilson, who was secretly on a very personal call and gave a total lie on content. And this is also a little bit confusing because General Kelly, when talking to the press, seemed to defend Trump, even sharing his own story how a member of the military said, you know, your son, when he died, he was doing what he wanted to do. He knew the risk when he was joining that 1%. And so that seems to somewhat conflict with, I didn't say what the Congresswoman said, saying it was totally fabricated and he has proof. It's odd that his initial statement is so definite. Totally fabricated, not I was taken out of context. The initial quote you gave wasn't the full conversation. Instead, he says totally fabricated. And despite pushback from the president and the White House, Wilson has stood by her statement multiple times. Also, we saw LaDavid's mother, Kawanda Jones Johnson, even speaking out, confirming that the statement from Wilson was true. Also, a note here, because you may have seen differing reports of the woman being the mother or the aunt. Kawanda is LaDavid's aunt, but she raised him as her own since he was 5. But many, including myself, were waiting to see if the widow here was going to speak out. Waiting to see if Maisha Johnson would confirm or deny the story. And it appeared on Facebook we had our answer. A Facebook post that appeared to be written by Maisha began to spread online. It read, I want to set the record straight. I'm getting sick and tired of this so-called politician using my husband as a political platform. Even by her own words, she did not hear all the conversation, she only heard part of it. This is what actually was said. Quote, they know the risks, they know what they sign up for, but they still volunteer to put their lives on the line for their fellow Americans. We owe them a debt that can never be repaid. Powerful words from the widow of a war hero, but it turns out those words were fake. Maisha confirmed with ABC News that the post was fake. ABC journalist Michael DeMoro tweeting confirmation in a post saying, Mrs. Johnson confirms to ABC News that she did not write this post. It's fake. It was also pointed out that the timestamp on the post did not make sense. The post says October 17, 3:27 p.m. However, Trump made the phone call at 4:45 p.m. Also, and I feel like maybe I shouldn't be pointing this out because then people are just going to update their fake bullshit game. Maisha Johnson's profile picture here is square, but that's not how it looks on Facebook anymore. On Facebook, you get a little circle. Unfortunately, a ton of people didn't realize those glaring problems with the post and shared it as truth. This included people like author Thomas Wichter, who tweeted, the rodeo clown Rep Wilson lied about the whole thing. Why should a widow have to set the record straight as she grieves? Although I will say Wichter did a lot better than other people that were sharing this fake news. Once he realized it was fake, he deleted the tweet and he posted, I tweeted a Facebook post by the widow of one of the soldiers ambushed in Niger. She denies writing it, so I've deleted the tweet. And then this morning, Maisha Johnson went on Good Morning America to set the record straight. And I'll link to the whole interview down below, but here's what she said in regards to the phone call.
What he said was...
The president.
Yes, the president said that he knew what he signed up for, but it hurts anyway. And it made me cry because I was very angry at the tone of his voice and how he said it. Like he couldn't remember my husband's name. The only way he remembered my husband's name because he told me he had my husband report in front of him. And that's when he actually said LaDavid. I heard him stumbling on trying to remember my husband's name. And that what hurt me the most because if my husband is out here fighting for our country and he risked his life for our country, why can't you remember his name? And that would make me upset and cry even more because my husband was an awesome soldier. He did what it take people, other soldiers, like 5 years to do in 3 years. Whatever Miss Wilson said was not fabricated. What she said was 100% correct. The phone was on speakerphone. Why would we fabricate something like that?
Is there anything you'd like to say to the president now?
No. I don't have nothing to say to him.
And seemingly in response to this, Donald Trump tweeted, "I had a very respectful conversation with the widow of Sergeant LaDavid Johnson and spoke his name from the beginning without hesitation." And so ultimately where we're ending up is we're having differing public statements from the President of the United States and a Gold Star family. But that is not the end of the story, because many, including Mrs. Johnson, want to know what happened in Niger. During that same interview, she spoke about the lack of details. Now here's what we know. We know that 4 soldiers died in Niger on October 4th after reportedly being ambushed by around 50 ISIS militants. The Defense Department said that it was, quote, as a result of hostile fire while on a reconnaissance patrol. The first 3 soldiers were identified as Army Staff Sergeant Dustin M. Wright, Army Staff Sergeant Jeremiah W. Johnson, and Army Staff Sergeant Brian C. Black. And of course, the 4th soldier was identified as Sergeant LaDavid T. Johnson. According to the Defense Department, he died October 4th, but his body wasn't recovered by U.S. personnel until October 6th. Reportedly, Sergeant Johnson was found nearly a mile away from the central scene of the ambush in Niger, and no explanation for those details have been given yet. According to military officials, the Pentagon is still looking at the exact circumstances of how and when Johnson became separated from the 12-member team. According to a report, there are conflicting explanations from American troops and troops from Niger about what happened. Military officials from Niger saying that the group was attacked after trying to chase Islamic insurgents. Meanwhile, American service members say they did not chase the militants and only noticed them in the area before being ambushed. And so this has prompted an investigation by the Pentagon to find out if the soldiers had diverted from their routine patrol to engage in an unapproved mission. Defense Secretary Mattis said that a full investigation is underway but has not been completed. And Mattis also criticized the media for asking questions about the delay in recovering the body of Sergeant LaDavid Johnson. So that's where we are on that story right now. I do want to pass a question off to you. What are your thoughts now that the widow has spoken? Also, what are your feelings about Trump's tweet afterwards? Some people are saying that it's just him doubling down again, while others have really been outraged by the president, saying that he's essentially calling a Gold Star widow a liar. And that's where I'm going to end today's show. And remember, if you like this video, you like what I try and do on this channel, hit that like button. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button. Also, if you missed the last Philip DeFranco show, you want to catch up, click or tap right there to watch that. Or if you want to see the newest behind the scenes vlog, click or tap right there to watch that. But that said, of course, as always, my name's Philip DeFranco. You've just been filled in. I love yo faces, and I'll see you tomorrow.